So by this point in the Rings of Power show, we've determined that Mithril, according to the writers of this show, is not just some special ore, as it was defined in Tolkien's Middle-earth, but it is in fact a special type of ore that is imbued with a special type of magic. A combination of dark magic from the Balrog, a combination of good magic from the elven hero, and the light of the Valar themselves, in that it was a Silmaril in the tree that these two creatures fought over, and then the lightning came down and struck it, and blah, 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 blah. While that's not necessarily true to the lore of the books, it's what we have as defined by the show. Now, in the most recent episode, we saw this moment towards the end where the Durin, in a fit of rage, throws the piece of mithril across the table, and it slides next to this leaf that he had been shown by Elrond, which was corrupted and decaying. And lo and behold, as this mithril chunk lies next to the leaf, it begins to heal itself until finally it is cured completely, leading us to believe that, yes, in fact, the light of the Silmaril exists within this ore. That's what gives it its special properties, and it can indeed cure this corruption and bring the light back to the elves and keep them from fading away. All of that being now established, it also establishes the biggest plot hole in the entire arc of Rings of Power that the writers apparently have just decided to ignore, and they're just not going to even address it. We're going to be addressing it today in today's latest Rings of Power rant video. I'm Tim Anderson, aka Renfail, the bearded Dwarven princess, as many of you know me. And of course, if you've been around for a while, you know that I like to do these rant videos. They're a little bit ranty, a lot discussion, and we're also doing Rings of Power episodes if I can get comfortable in my chair here, reviewing the episodes. But today, we're talking about this plot hole, right? Before we go any further, this is your first time here, like, subscribe, hit the bell icon. If you are a returning viewer, you know what to do. This is the point where, like all of these other people here, you can support the channel. It's super simple. On a premiere like this, drop a super thanks down there, as well as a super chat. On a premiere like this, you simply have to drop a super chat or a sticker down there. You can also do a super thanks down below on an uploaded video after this is premiered. And of course, join as a member of the Adventurers Guild down there. And don't forget the Patreon page for the World of the Weave and the Void, which is that world map behind me. Let's dive in to the topic of the day. So, why do the elves want Mithril so bad? Well, according to the show, Mithril can heal the damaged leaf on the tree of Lindon when the two come into proximity. And as a result, we know that the future of the race is tied to this metal for good and bad, because Celeborn is going to forge 3 rings of power for elves, and one will be made of mithril. That ring is Nenya, the ring of water or adamant. It is the ring that Galadriel wears upon her finger. Now, it doesn't specifically state in the books that the other 2 rings are made of mithril, but we do know that Nenya is made of mithril. She says here that she's going to have it on when Frodo and the Fellowship come to her, a meeting that will mark the beginning of elves' time on Middle-earth. Blah, 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 blah. When Galadriel helps Frodo, she will do so knowing that the destruction of the One Ring will cause the beauty of the elves, the beauty of the light of Valinor, to fade on Middle-earth, but the Rings of Power has shown that that fate is likely unavoidable, because Mithril was a power forged from both good and evil. All right. So what's the plot hole here? Well, the plot hole is this, ladies and gentlemen. The Rings of Power has also taken one of the core elements of lore from the Silmarillion. Even though they don't have the rights to that book, they've taken one of the components of that, which is that orcs are corrupted elves that were corrupted by Melkor or Morgoth. All right. So it stands to reason that anything that was corrupted by Melkor, Morgoth, anything that has been corrupted by him since then, such as the leaf of Lindon, can be cured simply by coming in contact with mithril, right? If that's the case, then the entirety of Galadriel's quest is questionable, as is the entire threat of the orcish armies. Because if orcs are simply corrupted elves that have been taken away from the light of Valar, right, then they can be healed with the Mithril. All they have to do is come into proximity with it, and they too can find their way back to the light and into the glory of eternal life that awaits all of the elves who are good, of course. But if that's the case, it means that Sauron himself, theoretically, could also be healed or be brought back to the light if he was exposed to enough of this metal over a long enough period of time, right? Right? That's the beauty of storytelling, ladies and gentlemen. When you write something, you have to consider all of the various angles. You have to look at the pros and cons of all the different things. And if you're dealing with a writer's room, theoretically, your writer's room is going to contain people. They're going to look at all the different angles of a story and say, well, how might this play out? What are the pros and cons? Are there any of these things that contradict other things? This is the biggest red flag to me of all time, because if these rocks, if these magic rocks can heal corruption, if they can heal the corruption of Sauron, they can heal the corruption that is affecting the elves, causing their light to diminish, and it can bring the light back to them, then it stands to reason that the orcs themselves could be cured of the corruption because they could get the light brought back to them instead of being in darkness, which means Adar himself could return to being a full elf. And he has questioned his own path. A couple of times in the episode, he has talked about, as an example, he's going to miss the sun. He tells the orc when he has that orc showing his flesh to the sunlight, and he says, "What do you feel?" And the orc's like, "It burns, Matt, burns, father." And he's like, "I wish you could feel it like I do. I'm going to miss it when it's gone," right? He expresses regret and laments the fact that he's no longer going to be able to enjoy the sun. Well, now you can. Now you can, Adar. All you need is a mithril necklace, and you too can return to the light that once was, and you too can recapture the golden opportunity of youth before you were corrupted by Morgoth, aka Melkor. Now, I don't know about Sauron, because Sauron technically wasn't. I mean, he is corrupted, so, but he wasn't one of the elves. So that might be a little different for Sauron. But I look at this plot hole and I see this, and they have this like magical cure for everything, right? They just say that here's Mithril, it has the light of the Silmaril, it can cure all evils, it can get rid of the corruption, it can banish the darkness, it can bring light back to everything, and that's what's going to save us, right? If that's the case, then your entire war with the orcs is moot. Your entire war with Sauron is moot, because you can literally reverse everything simply by bringing back one of the Silmarils through vast quantities of the ore and just start, I don't know, crop dust the orc armies with the eagles and just, fly over and just scatter mithril dust all over everything, and they're going to inhale it, and magically they're going to return back to their elven forms instead of being orcs anymore. I don't know. Be creative. What I just came up with was as equally creative as anything that we've seen in this show to date. I don't know. Is it just me? I don't know. This came up in my YouTube comments, so I got to give credit where credit is due. Several people mentioned this as a ridiculous plot point. I went, you know what? I got to bring this up in a video because it is totally true. The fact that if Mithril can cure all of the ails us and can make everything whole again, then the entirety of this show has no purpose, because the evil can easily be defeated simply by wearing necklaces, crop dusting, I don't know, making silver tipped arrows and blades made out of mithril and all sorts of fun stuff. Love to hear your thoughts. Drop them down in the comments below. Like, subscribe, hit the bell icon, support in all the ways I talked about at the beginning of the episode. See you next time. Happy viewing, everybody.